Today, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the Trump-era COVID policy that allows border officials to turn away asylum seekers, otherwise known as Title 42, will remain in effect for the time being. The court voted 5-4 to grant an emergency request by 19 Republican state attorneys general who filed a last-ditch request to keep the policy in place, with Justice Neil Gorsuch joining the court's 3 liberal justices in voting against the stay request. One of the states petitioning to keep Title 42 in place was Texas, whose governor, Greg Abbott, warned of total chaos if the policy ended. The same Greg Abbott who spent the holiday weekend dialing up the cruelty in yet another political stunt, dropping off several busloads of asylum seekers on the street in front of the home of Vice President Harris on the night before Christmas. About 140 migrants, including children, arrived in D.C. from Texas in 18-degree weather late Saturday, some wearing just T-shirts, others without shoes and jackets. One volunteer who spent the first couple hours of Christmas Day helping provide those people with a warm place to sleep and food to eat told Axios, quote, "None of them knew where they were being dropped off. They have no idea they're part of this bigger political game." Joining me now, Julian Castro, MSNBC political analyst and former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Secretary Castro, Julian, thank you very much for being here. You know, the White House put out a statement reacting to Governor Abbott's gambit, a long statement, but in part saying this was a cruel, dangerous, and shameful stunt. And this morning on Morning Joe, Claudia Tristan, she's at Migrant Solidarity Mutual Aid Network. She's a volunteer with that outfit. Listen to what she had to say this morning.
The most painful thing to watch, the children that are being thrown into this game that our political leaders think is going to resolve anything. Those children are the most innocent among all of this. There are real human lives in the middle of all of this who are becoming victims of his stunts, which, like this weekend, there's children, not even 2 years old, toddlers, that are stuck in the middle of all of this.
You know, Julian, people not even knowing that they were being dropped off here. Your reaction to just this situation, but also what Governor Abbott is doing here?
Oh, Jonathan, it's an important point to remember. These are human beings. And it says something about Greg Abbott that he's willing to be this mean, this intentionally cruel, to have people duped into going to a place, being dropped off on the side of the road, without many of them, without even a jacket on, including, as you pointed out, kids. And that kind of cruelty also says something, I think, today about the Republican Party and where it is, that you have people like Abbott and DeSantis trying to figure out who can be the biggest jerk and thinking that that's the way they're going to get elected, perhaps in a 2024 Republican presidential primary. And so Greg Abbott is somebody that has been angling to get on the presidential election track for a long time. I think that he sees this as completely consistent with that. He thinks he's scoring political points by doing that. And I really don't know what's scarier, the fact that you can have somebody that cruel, that mean in office in such a position of power, or that there's something underneath that, which is a base of the Republican Party that gets its kicks by this kind of cruelty toward people.
Well, let's look at the cruelty by the numbers. Here's how many people have been bussed up to Washington, D.C. You see there, as of December 22nd, more than 8,700 migrants had been bussed to Washington, D.C. from the Texas border. This is according to the governor's office, which says another 6,520 people combined were sent to New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia. And, you know, Julian, I look at these numbers and I look at the video of these families being dropped off, and I'm just wondering, where is the outrage? Not the entire Republican Party is so cruel to think that doing this to, as you said, to human beings, to children, that surely, clearly there's someone left in the Republican Party to stand up and say loudly and vocally that this is wrong.
Well, I wish they would. There may be a few out there. I haven't heard their voices. They haven't been doing it very loudly, but I wish that they would. I wish they would push back on this because this type of action, these types of stunts, they really don't serve anybody. You know, they don't serve these migrants well. They don't speak to who we should be as Americans. They're not solving the problem in any way. And they try to assuage the bad feeling here among some people by saying, well, we're sending them to these places because these are sanctuary cities that have a better infrastructure to care for them. Greg Abbott knows full well that that kind of care is going on here in Texas, and he hasn't invested in the care and the concern, the compassion that he could in nonprofits, in churches, in other organizations that very much like the assistance to take care of them here at the Texas border.
Right. That just adds to the cruelty. You know, I'm wondering, can we get back to where we were, I guess, maybe 10 years ago? Remember when Republicans like John McCain and Lindsey Graham were part of the Republican effort for comprehensive immigration reform? Can we ever get back to a point where Democrats and Republicans can get together and do something legislatively to solve the problems at the border? Because that's what it's going to take, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, it's haunting in 2013 having 68 votes in the Senate for comprehensive immigration reform, but John Boehner would not allow that legislation to get onto the House floor for a vote. If it had, we probably would be in a very different position on immigration. I think it's probably going to have to be done piecemeal if we make progress, perhaps with legislation for Dreamers and other pieces where Republicans and Democrats may be able to come to some compromise. I wish that there were a more hopeful, optimistic scenario for comprehensive immigration reform right now. I haven't completely given up, but also being realistic, I don't see that anytime in the near future.
Julian Castro, as always, thank you very much for coming to The ReidOut.